Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm Joseph, and I'm going to share with all of you today my personal reasons for owning a flip phone instead of a smartphone, and why I encourage all of you to make the same transition. So from what I'm hearing online, it sounds like these flip phones are making a little bit of a comeback. I guess some people are finding them trendy again because they have a retro appeal, but I don't see anybody in my area using a flip phone. In fact, I get stopped by strangers all the time, people who just want to tell me that I'm the first young man they've come across using a flip phone. I have seen some people who also use them up in Ohio and Kentucky, around that area, but certainly not down in North Carolina where I live. And I think probably for many people, one of the biggest concerns is one that I had before I actually started using one. I assumed that texting would really be a bother because of the fact that you can't hit a touch screen for the individual letters. I assumed you'd have to scroll through them on the number pad right here. And you don't have to because it comes with predictive text. And in case some of you may not know what that is, I'll explain. Predictive text fills in the word that you're typing, but it basically guesses the word, because obviously, each number on the keypad has several letters, so the phone will guess the word that you're typing, and if it didn't select the right one, you use the arrows on the directional pad to select a different word. So I'll demonstrate with the Notepad app here. And it's quite simple. The system is not hard to get used to. I've had long conversations with people through text messaging, and it's no bother at all. I don't get fatigued until my hands start to cramp up from holding the phone too long. But anyway, this phone has everything that I need. It's certainly not bare bones by any stretch of the imagination, so I'll show you what the main menu looks like. This is the first page of the main menu. So apart from calls and texting, it has a music player, which is handy. I don't use the music player that much because if you overload the phone with too many files, it won't function properly and it'll tell you that you have to clear up space. And that's okay because I have an MP3 player that I use anyway. And I'm a very selective music listener. I listen to very specific genres or artists, so I don't find myself needing a streaming service where I can constantly go through different material every single day. So that works for me. Now, I do know that a lot of people make heavy use of streaming services like Spotify, and in that case, maybe you could look to an MP3 player that has Wi-Fi, since you can't get a streaming service on this thing. But I really do think it's worth it to make some kind of sacrifice in terms of convenience, because it really is worthwhile to have a flip phone instead of a smartphone, and I'll explain why shortly. So this little device also has a video player right here at the bottom of the menu, and that is nice to have as well. I've looked at a few videos on here, although again I try not to overload the device with large files. And here's the second page of the main menu. You can access email, Google Maps, internet browsing. A lot of people are surprised when I tell them you can do internet browsing on a flip phone. Only caveat is that you can't do too much heavy internet browsing in terms of watching a really long YouTube video, for example, because the phone may end up stalling and you'd have to restart it. And that has happened to me quite a number of times. There are two methods that I use to restart the phone. Either I hold down the red power button right here until the phone restarts, or if that doesn't work, I simply pry off the cover that houses the battery. I'll show you the little slot where you pry it up right here. So I pry up the cover for the battery and remove the cover and take out the battery, put it back in, and then the phone works fine again. The email system is nice to have as well, because I do like to check my email every so often when I'm out. And obviously I won't write long emails on a flip phone, I'll do that on a laptop, but it's nice to have the convenience. And Google Maps, I appreciate that quite a lot because I ride my bike much more often than I drive a car, and if I need directions, I can pull out my flip phone. It's not the same as a GPS, of course, because it doesn't walk you through it with a voiceover, but it does give you directions. This phone also has its own app store on a different page of the menu. Most of the apps are very chintzy and gimmicky stuff that's not really worth your time, like maybe some kind of games you can download. But one recent update to the app store, I found I could get a YouTube downloader, and I'll show you right here on the menu. That's an amazing bonus for a flip phone. I can't get a YouTube downloader for free on my laptop, so I'm amazed I can get it on a flip phone. And I have downloaded lyric videos, recipe videos, and there's no limit to what you can download from what I can tell. So it's nice to have. But getting back to the main point of my video, you know, I think in this digital age where there's 1,001 different social media platforms and everybody communicates online, we've kind of lost the human touch with, you know, having true friendships and maintaining good, healthy connections. And we saw that, you know, we saw the worst consequences of that in full swing during 2020, you know, when everybody was staying inside and practicing social distancing. You couldn't see your friends, your family in many places. And, you know, another thing that I believe is a lost art is phone calls, at least for young people. I think, you know, those of us who've been born in the 2000s, we've kind of become awkward when it comes to phone calls because we're so used to texting each other. And texting definitely has its place. I'm not against texting anybody. But I think it's so important to maintain as much human connection, you know, the most genuine connection with people that you can manage over time. So I do text people a lot, but I also make an effort to call them whenever I can and have, you know, conversations where you can hear the other person's voice. And it's the next best thing to seeing them in person, I think. And I'm sure everyone will admit that the smartphone is very addictive, no matter how you look at it. And like I said, although this flip phone does have internet browsing, it's more limited. I can look at the internet whenever I feel like it, but I have to be careful not to do too much internet browsing or it can make the phone stall. And I see that actually as a good thing, you know, it's because it doesn't encourage you to be on here all day long. And besides, I mean, the screen of a flip phone is so much smaller than a smartphone. It's just not going to give you the same incentive to just be scrolling all day long. And my third reason for why I think it's so important to have a flip phone is because the levels of radiation emitted from these devices are much lower compared to the levels of radiation emitted from a smartphone. And I know not everyone is on board with the issue of radiation being harmful for people, but I will provide a couple of credible sources for information in that regard in the first comment of my video. I can't post them in the description for certain reasons. I don't yet have credentials to post links in my video descriptions. But I did use an EMF detector, one of those little handheld boxes with a light that changes from red to orange and yellow and green, depending on the level of radiation from a device. So red is the highest and green is the lowest. And if there's no light on, that means the box is not detecting any radiation from the device near it. And when I tested that EMF detector, when I used an EMF detector right next to my flip phone, as long as I had the data turned off, there was no response whatsoever. The light didn't even go on. And it wasn't until I turned the data on, the light went up to red. So, I mean, that's not much of a surprise. If you have the internet browsing turned on, it figures it would need a strong signal. But it is very reassuring that as long as I'm carrying this around, you know, in my pants pocket, that it's not going to be blasting frequencies. Now, this phone does have its own camera, right here at the top. But I don't use it that often because it's very, very low resolution for both photos and videos, so obviously they don't look good at all. I will use it if I happen to be downtown and I see something really interesting, like maybe an old car that I really want a picture of and I don't have any other device on me, then I'll whip out my flip phone. But in general, it's much, much better to keep an actual camera on me. But it's definitely much better to use a dedicated digital camera. And I'm filming right now with a camcorder. Obviously those have kind of become obsolete, but I enjoy the pleasure of using dedicated devices for certain tasks, of using an actual camera to take pictures, or using an actual camcorder to take videos, or using an actual MP3 player to listen to music. I feel like it allows you to take more joy from these basic things when you actually have a device that's not a do-it-all gadget, when you have to use multiple gadgets for multiple things. I feel like it just makes you appreciate the enjoyment more. Because really, if we rely on the same gadget for a whole bunch of different things, it's good to appreciate the effort it takes to actually switch from one task to another, or one pleasure to another. So again, to reiterate my original point, I'm very happy with the flip phone. I do not miss a smartphone at all. I think it's so much healthier for the purpose of not being addicted, and it's even kind of stylish in a way, it makes a retro statement, and it's more affordable than a smartphone. It has much less radiation. I would definitely recommend it to everybody. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Are you considering a flip phone? If not, what is holding you back? And I'm very interested to know the different perspectives that y'all have. So thanks for watching my video, and I hope you all found this somewhat helpful, and I guess I'll see you all next time, and take care.